is brievenkade. Is morgen en oorlog houden, een scheelte, een leef maar jolen en bed. Lager, Canadië, zoals Jeremiah. Because we great honor to be here to read a story about these two lads. I used to play for the club long ago called Delaney's, and I was coming over here one day to play for Delaney's. I was leaving Dylan's over a bit of an argument, and I was coming over to play with Delaney's here, and a certain man caught me by the shoulder. He's Dan White, he'd be a brother of Paddy's, and Mary's there, and he says, "Don't bother playing for them, see, they have enough for hurlers. We could do it to like you." So I went from there and up and I played with Shandon Rovers, and I can say it's great to see the Delaney colours go down to the field there. As you know, that their field is over here in Mighty Field, and please God, when this whole virus thing is over, I know they're Ireland's on today, but I can tell you many's the match I played against them, I tell you they were all like all Ireland's. I can tell you there was plenty of whipping in it. Oglig, Cornelius agus Jeremiah Delaney, Acada, Gahel. We are here today to commemorate the lives of volunteers Cornelius and Jeremiah Delaney, both members of E Company, 1st Battalion, 1st Cork Brigade, Oglig na here. Less than 2 weeks after the death of 3 other members of E Company volunteers, Christopher Morrissey, Liam Mulcahy, and a close friend of Delaney's, Tyke Crowley. The two brothers were shot in their bedrooms in the early hours of Sunday, the 12th of December, 1920, after the Dillon's Cross ambush. On Friday, the 10th of December, 16 members of the 1st Battalion lay down in ambush in Dillon's Cross for an unexpected patrol from Victoria Barracks. The patrol of Crown forces did not appear on that evening, and on the following night, Saturday, the 11th of December, an attacking party comprising of 6 volunteers set up an ambush in the same position. This ambushing party was reduced to 6 volunteers to minimise the detention and comprised of Captain Sean O'Donoghue, James O'Mahony, Michael Baylor, Augustine O'Leary, Sean Healy, Michael Kenny, all members of A Company, Oglig na Hearn. On the 10th of December, martial law being declared in Cork, Kerry, Limerick and Tipperary, and the IRA, having gained intelligence from within the barracks, were targeting specially one officer who was known for his brutal treatment of Republicans in Cork City. In the attack, 2 lorry loads of auxiliaries containing 13 Auxies in each lorry were ambushed, sorry about that Australian, were ambushed only a short distance away from the biggest British Army barracks in Cork, where close to 2,000 soldiers resided, and in the ambush the British sustained casualties of 1 dead and 11 wounded, while the IRA unit escaped unharmed. The ambush was planned carefully and with diligence. About 50 yards from Dillon's Cross, there was an old stone wall running between Balmoral Terrace and the houses at the corner of the cross, which was selected as a point of ambush. All members took up positions behind this wall in what is known as O'Callaghan's Field, which led down into Golden's Glen, and this provided an excellent escape route for the volunteers. The ambush had to be extremely swift, and for this reason it was decided that they would primarily use Mills bombs and withdraw almost immediately. This was summarised in the words of one volunteer who stated that our plan was to stop the convoy of auxiliaries, hurl bombs into the lorries, fire a quick volley of revolver shots, and get away as rapidly as possible. You can be sure now they were all good hurlers, the fellas ever thrown these bombs, like, you know. In the weeks leading up to the attack, a number of volunteers have been killed in the city. 3 volunteers were killed in Patrick Street when a member of the Crown Forces threw a grenade into a group of Irish soldiers on their way home from a battalion meeting. The 3 killed were Patrick Trahy, Vice Commandant of the 2nd Battalion, Patrick O'Donoghue, Quartermaster of the 2nd Battalion, and James Megan, 2nd Commander of the 2nd Battalion. 2 volunteers had also been murdered on the 17th of November. Fianna Scout Patrick Hanley, Overlook Eugene O'Connell, while a further 3 volunteers died in the Blackpool area. Volunteer Christopher Morrissey, Liam Mulcahy died in an accidental explosion on the Watercourse Road, while the body of volunteer Toy Crowley, a neighbour of the Delaneys, was found in a railway tunnel, having been murdered by the Crown forces. Now, a lot of people say that Toy was pulled up by a rope and actually thrown down, the chimneys, that he just walked over for the trains. So, and then there was, of course, the Brit said he was running along and he got knocked down by a train. So it's up to you to think what you want to think about that one. On the night of the ambush, under the cover of darkness, 5 volunteers took up positions behind the stone wall, which was about 4 feet from the roadside, while O'Clock Michael Kenny took up position at Harrington Square on the opposite side of the road from the ambush party. It was his job to try and get the lorries to stop a few yards in front of him. Kenny wore a Macintosh overcoat, scarf and cap to give the impression that he was an off-duty British soldier, and it was his task to act both as a lookout and to step out onto the road as the lorries approached. At approximately 8 o'clock, 2 lorries containing 13 auxiliaries left Victoria Barracks and approached the ambush position. That's Collins's barracks now, you know that. The ambush position in Dennis Cross. As the leading lorry approached, Michael Kenny stepped out to the edge of the footpath, put up his hand, and signalled the driver to stop. The driver of the lorry started to slow down, and as the second lorry came close to the wall, Kenny gave 2 blasts and a whistle, signalling to the men behind the wall that there were 2 lorries on the road and the ambush should begin. This task complete, and as the volunteers opened fire, Kenny made his escape to an IRA hideout in Racooney. He was in an overly exposed position on the road, which made his participation in the ambush impossible. Once the whistle was blown, the 5 volunteers stood up, hurled the bombs at their targets. Michael Baylor, Augustine O'Leary each threw a bomb into the first lorry, while James O'Mahony, Sean Hanley and Sean O'Donoghue threw bombs into the second lorry, all which hit their targets. As the bombs exploded, the volunteers drew their revolvers and fired a volley of rounds into the auxiliaries before making their escape. One of the auxiliaries was killed immediately and 11 were severely wounded. The ambush only lasted a minute or 2. Augustine O'Leary, Michael Baylor, Sean Haney left towards the city, while James O'Mahony, Sean O'Donoghue made their way to the Delaney farm at Dublin Hill, which is just here, and known IRA safe house. Sean O'Donoghue was carrying an unused bombs, and when they reached the Delaney farm, they were hidden in the field and the volunteers advanced elsewhere. Making their way to the Delaney farm, it is believed that James O'Mahony, Sean O'Donoghue had been spotted and their whereabouts informed upon, while a second theory has been suggested that a cap was found belonging to one of the volunteers, and the cap was picked up by bloodhounds. In the immediate moments after the ambush, a number of lorries carrying heavily armed members of the garrison left Victoria Barracks to Dennis Cross. When they arrived at the destination, the troops dismounted. Some attended the wounded soldiers, while others made their way into a number of houses and forced the occupants onto the street. Once the occupants were on the street, the troops set them on fire as an immediate reprisal. One of the houses that was specifically targeted for burning was that of Brian Dillon, the prominent Cork Fenian, whom the crossroads was named after. The auxiliaries stood guard as the houses burned down, and anyone who tried to save their property was immediately fired upon. Later that night, at around 2 o'clock in the morning, a number of British Army lorries pulled up outside the Delaney British household, and after dismounting a number of them, they demanded admission to the household at the door. At least 8 men entered the house, went up the stairs, they entered the bedroom where the 2 brothers slept, who were in the process of getting out of bed and getting dressed. They were then asked if their name was Delaney, and they answered yes. They were immediately shot down. Their brother-in-law, William Delaney, who was over 60 years of age and sleeping in another bed, was also fired upon and wounded in 2 places. According to Daniel Delaney, the father of the brothers, the assailants wore long overcoats and spoke with strong English accents. At a military inquiry, a civilian inquiry had been refused by the authorities. But at a military inquiry, one of Daniel Delaney's daughters gave this account of what happened. Having been awakened by the loud knocking on the door, I arose and went towards my brother's bedroom. I saw a number of men going down the stairs and their backs towards me. I entered my brother's room and I saw my brother Jeremiah lying on the floor. He was not then dead, but his lips were moving. My brother Con was lying in the bed in a pool of blood. I ran out and I got a crucifix. I asked my brother to kiss the crucifix. He did so and he put his hand to his mouth to keep silent. I then presented the crucifix to Jeremiah and asked him to kiss it. And as I did so, he turned his head towards me and he put the crucifix to his lips. He died immediately. I left the room to get bandages. I got some and left them in the room. As I was going downstairs to go for a priest and a doctor, I met a man coming towards me with a revolver and a torchlight. I asked him where he was going, or who was he going to kill, more of us, or was he going to kill more of us? I do not know. The reply he made, she said. He tried to push past me. I put my hands up against his chest and besought him, for God's sake, do not go up there, they're all dead. He persisted in his efforts and he said, is there anybody belong to me up there? In a foreign accent. And my father answered, nobody but dead men. He then left. I followed him to the door. He said nothing to a number of men. He said something to a number of men who were downstairs and they left the house. As I was crossing the road just outside the house, going for a nurse, I saw a motor car on the road about 150 yards away. The lights of the car were facing me, in the direction of my father's house. Before I got out of bed, I heard the motor car stopping outside the gate leading to the yard. I went to the nearest telephone and rang the fire station and asked them to send an ambulance. I got a reply stating that there was no ambulance available, that there were a number of houses on fire on Partridge Street and that the men were afraid to go out as there were considerable firing in Partridge Street. It was then about 3:30 in the morning. We procured a priest from the presbytery of the North Cathedral at about 4 o'clock. He advised me to telephone again for an ambulance. We did so at 8 o'clock in the morning and the Union Quay ambulance arrived, took my brother Con to the Mercy Hospital and he died on Saturday the 18th of December. In the following days, both Cornelius and Jeremiah were buried in the Republican plot in St. Finbarr's Cemetery. It was a huge funeral and the public outcry of support was huge for the volunteers.